Hey, the other day, CTV ran a clip that was Pierre Poilievre saying a certain sentence about why he was voting non-confidence in Trudeau. Here's the clip.
That's why we need to put forward a motion.
Yeah, except for that, that's not actually what he said, although it sure sounded like it, didn't it? Because it actually was his voice, and he actually did say those words, but he didn't say them in that sentence. It was spliced together, literally taking a word here, a word there, and a word from here, and putting them all together and making a new video that was handcrafted by CTV. He didn't say that.
That's why it's time to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election. That's why we need to put forward a motion.
Now, that's not an accident. I know a little bit about video editing. It's the business I've been in for 10 years. That is very laborious work. It must have taken at least an hour, maybe more. And the thing is about taking a word here and a word there from different moments in a conversation is that if you were to put it together as a video and time it just right so it sounded natural, you would see visually that it was out of order. So they hid those little splices by covering up his mouth or putting him out of the shot so that the audio and video wouldn't be out of sync. That was a deceptive tactic, very carefully done. It's impossible to do that except on purpose. It was a deep fake, but it wasn't created by AI, artificial intelligence. It was created by CTV and their low intelligence, pro-liberal point of view. The purpose was obvious. It was to paint Pierre Poilievre as hostile to the liberal dental care program. I don't know, to make him look heartless or something. But it's not what he said. It was made up. Imagine going to that effort to take a word here, a word there, put it all together, time it just right so it seems natural, and then to hide the splicings by having visual elements in the way. And then, who does that? Well, CTV was caught red-handed, and they gave a dishonest apology that in China would be called an ironic apology. I'm sorry if you were offended. You can see it tweeted here in tiny text that's so much smaller than normal Twitter text. And because it's an image that they tweeted, the words are not searchable because it's a picture. They tweeted it not on the main CTV Twitter feed. They put it on their CTV National News, which is their smallest channel, just 141,000 followers, instead of 430,000 followers on the main CTV account, or the 2.2 million followers on the CTV News account. They put it on the smallest place they could, and they claimed, it was just a misunderstanding. It was just out of context, that's all. Then they had their anchor read that word for word on TV that night. I guess he'll literally read anything put in front of him. I suppose that is his job description. Take a look.
Last night, in a report on this broadcast, we presented a comment by the official opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, that was taken out of context. It left viewers with the impression the Conservative non-confidence motion was to defeat the Liberals' dental care program. In fact, the Conservatives have made it clear the motion is based on a long list of issues with the Liberal government, including the carbon tax. A misunderstanding during the editing process resulted in this misrepresentation. We unreservedly apologize to Mr. Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada. We regret this report went to air in the manner it did.
How would that have happened on CTV's flagship news broadcast program? I mean, it's not a tiny show. They have a lot of staff, unlike independent journalists. That must have been ordered by a boss because it's so unusual. No journalist would do that as a matter of course. That's just a strange thing to do. It must have been ordered by a boss, supervised by a boss, and there must have been many hands and eyes on it to get the different footage, to make the edits. Oh, I'm sure that half a dozen people were involved. There was no misunderstanding here. In fact, they understood the assignment perfectly. No possible way this could have come about other than deliberately. I'd like to know, either from Omar Sachedina or anyone else at CTV, what is the alleged misunderstanding? What was misunderstood? What were the instructions and who misunderstood whom? I'd like to know, is there any proof of this misunderstanding, or is that just a lie that CTV's press department came up with, their PR department? And by the way, are there any consequences to this lie? That's CTV, but CBC, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, CBC comes to the aid of their CTV cousins. Take a look at this video. This guy's name is David Cochrane. He's famous for taking a free poutine from Justin Trudeau during a campaign a few years ago. I mean, if a politician gives you a gift, you say thank you and you put it down and you don't take it. You don't take it and eat it like David Cochrane. What a weirdo. Here, take a look at this clip.
They've admitted the mistake. It was they said basically human error and incompetence, or that happens in this business, right? I'm not saying CTV News is incompetent, but we all make mistakes in this business and we apologize for it. And they published it, and their chief anchor said it on the show. But to demand that they apologize for the malicious nature of the editing, to admit to a malicious intent here, that's a demand that's difficult for a news agency to accept.
I'm not sure that we should wave it away as just a mistake, because this is not a misattribution. It's not even taking part of the same sentence and applying it in a different context.
Yep.
This is taking a full paragraph, a variety of sentences that Pierre Poilievre said, taking bits and pieces from each sentence to craft a new sentence.
Yeah.
That is journalistic malpractice.
Okay, so just, and I'm not defending this, I'm explaining this. The sentence that Pierre Poilievre said is, that's why it's time to put forward a motion for a carbon tax election. For whatever reason, they spliced together different things he said in that scrum to create the sentence, that's why we need to put forward a motion. Now, it's not like it was changed to him saying something outrageous. It's not a sentence he uttered. It does not say it's about a carbon tax election, and in the way it was presented in the story, it makes it sound like he wants an election to stop dental care.
Correct.
So I get why they feel they were taken out of context, and CTV admitted to that and apologized for it. But the suggestion from Mr. Poilievre's tweets that the Bell Canada corporate suite is somehow weaponizing its news agencies to get favorable treatment by the Trudeau government is a lot to say.
I don't think that they're feeling that they've been taken out of context. They were taken out of context.
Absolutely.
And
I agree.
When you are the fifth estate, you are in the accountability game, just the same as politicians are. And a quick apology the same day for something that is so egregious that action to be taken is not going to be enough when we're talking about the table stakes of not favorable coverage, fair and balanced coverage. And that's all Conservatives are asking for. They're asking for fair coverage. They're not asking for glowing reviews. They just want the facts to be reported as they are. So I don't think that it is, delving into conspiracy theory. We had 3 separate sentences. A Frankenstein sentence emerged as a result. That deserves to be called out, and I think that should be called out regardless of who says it in the House of Commons or which journalistic entity makes such a bad decision.
Human error? Mistake? Is it a mistake? Kate Harrison, the Conservative pundit, explained it pretty well. But there he was, David Cochrane, a government journalist at the CBC state broadcaster, doing the heavy lifting for fake news. The Conservatives feel like they were taken out of context. No, brother, they actually were taken out of context, and CTV actually admits that. You're defending CTV even more than they're defending themselves. They say it was out of context, and here's CBC saying, well, maybe they feel like they were. It's funny, though, CTV, they do these sorts of things a lot. Just a few weeks ago, CTV forgot, whoopsies, misunderstanding. They forgot to show the Conservative candidate in the recent Montreal by-election. Oh, well, it's so easy to forget these things. This was first exposed by the press secretary for Pierre Poilievre, Sebastian Skamsky, who showed that the words were cut and pasted together, meticulously showing where they actually came from. And then he did something which I think is sort of amazing. Instead of just whining about it, Skamsky announced a boycott. From now on, every single part of the Conservative Party will simply boycott not just CTV, but also its owner, Bell Canada, and very importantly, Bell Canada lobbyists. He specifically talks about the executives of Bell Canada. Now, I have had the opportunity on several occasions to read the annual report of Bell Canada, which owns CTV. Bell Canada is called BCE, Bell Canada Enterprises, and it really is one of Canada's largest companies. It's almost like a public utility because it's so regulated and gets so many favors from the Trudeau government. It is owned by private shareholders, but it is sort of like a bank or an airline in the way that it is. There's really no seeing where the company ends and the government begins. Now, I read the entire document, and you can find it very quickly online. Just Google BCE Canada annual report. And you can see their annual report, which I just read again today. There is a single mention of CTV News in the entire document. I'll read it to you. It's only one sentence long. CTV News is a member of the Trust Project, a global network of news organizations that affirms a strong commitment to transparency, accuracy, inclusion, and fairness. Of course, every word of that is a lie, of course. We just showed that they do the opposite of all those things. But that's the only mention of CTV News in the entire report. And the reason for that is because it is a tiny part of the business. Bell Canada, their main business is internet and cell phones, which are extremely regulated. They depend on favorable rulings from the federal government's regulator, which is hand-picked appointees chosen by Justin Trudeau. So your BCE, your Bell Canada Enterprises, you've got satellites, you've got cell phones, you've got cable, all hyper-regulated, and you have tens of billions of dollars at stake there. And then you have this little teeny tiny rounding error called CTV News. CTV News is very important to you and me as news consumers, but it is not important to Bell Canada as a source of revenue. It's a money loser, of course. But why is CTV so important to Bell? And why is Pierre Poilievre singling out Bell and their executives?